listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast with Johnny Slopes.
Top 3 to 5 pick next year.
And Camilla.
For the value you could have gotten at Ryan at.
I almost had 5,000 yards, but no, you don't want me. What you're saying is Wayne Gallman is the Dustin Funches of running backs?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you can put me down as a saying that.
We now bring you to the Fifth Down.
We never bring up any current affairs on this show, whether it's foreign or domestic, because we want this to be a little escape from the hell that we call life. But before we're starting the show today, I just want to give our thoughts and prayers to those affected by the mass shooting in Las Vegas. If anyone's living in or around the area, if you're looking to help, I think the best thing you could probably do at this point is like donate some blood or plasma. Fucking crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. You can't be safe anywhere now. You know, schools aren't safe, movie theaters aren't safe. Fucking, you can even feel safe at a music festival, dude. It's just like, honestly, man, I'm not gonna make this all spiritual or anything, but shit, dude, there's really no place where you can be genuinely safe anymore, or even consider yourself safe. It's just kind of like that. If
you're able to, kiss your mama, tell you love her. You're listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Johnny Slopes, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime, K-Mill.
Yo.
But today, we're going to bring you episode 26, show 82. Me and K-Mill are going to be here together to give our Week 5 Nugget report. But before we do that, K-Mill, what were some of the things that you were looking for this past weekend?
Well, man, I mean, I'll tell you, the AFC East has been probably the biggest surprise so far. I think that, you know, the Patriots and the Jets have the exact same record. The Jets, you know, everybody thought they were going to mail it in, go 0-16, get the number one pick in the draft, you know, win the Sam Darnold or whoever else sweepstakes. And they've been competitive to this point. They're 2-1, and 2-2, and the Buffalo's at the top of the division. I mean, who expected that? I mean, to go into Atlanta yesterday and beat them was just so crazy to me.
Yeah, you know, there's a chance that the Jets could have a 3-game winning streak. They play the Cleveland Browns next week. They could be 3-2.
Yeah,
no one's seen that coming, you know.
There's definitely seen that coming.
We're going to do a little bit of station identification. We're part of the BS Podcast Network. We're in the gold tier, www.bspodcastnetwork.com. Also, find us on iTunes and leave us a rate and review, because that is where it's at. Help us grow and catch more attention. It motivates my will to live. Okay, so K-Mill.
All right.
There are quite a bit of injury news. What do you got for us?
Well, it breaks my heart. You know, I had, I'll update my fantasy owners and mine in Johnny Slopes League. I had David Johnson, lost him for a good portion of the season, Week 1. I made a trade with Rob Gronkowski to get Dalvin Cook, Week 2. And it worked out well for me for 2 weeks, and alas to say that it is no more. The Dalvin Cook, who's on his way to a great rookie season, tore his ACL, and my heart hurts, man. My heart hurts. I replaced David Johnson, and then season ender right there. So it's rough, but hey, man, you can't give up now. You got to keep fighting and scratching. At the very least, you got to play spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, he went down with a non-contact knee injury. Every time that happens, you always expect the worst, and it was a torn ACL. Latavius Murray, he came in for the relief for him. He said that his ankle is not 100%. I think also Jerick McKinnon left with an ankle injury. What does this mean for the rest of the Minnesota offense going forward?
I mean, honestly with you, I think, you know, obviously if you lost, you know, Dalvin Cook, you're going to go pick up some guys. But here's my thing on this Minnesota backfield. It's just going to be so hard to decipher because, okay, so you got an early down thumper who already said he's not 100%, you know, in Latavius Murray, who has never been a very efficient, you know, yards per carry guy. And then, you know, you're pretty much almost depending on a touchdown with him, I think. And then you have a guy like Jerick McKinnon who's going to get passing down work, who has in a limited setting been effective before. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, who do you pick up? And, you know, aren't there – to me, there's some better options out there. But, I mean, I think you should put in a claim and see what happens.
Yeah, Latavius Murray claimed his ankle is not 100%, and he got surgery on that ankle like months ago, and it's still not 100%. So, I mean, I think if there is a back to own in that backfield, it's Jerick McKinnon. I always liked him as a talent. And last year they had a bad line. They reshuffled things this year. Dalvin Cook looked great. I don't think that he's going to be able to replicate what Cook did, but I think if there is a back to own in that backfield, it would be Jerick McKinnon. But you got to think that overall, Dalvin Cook's injury kind of puts a little bit of a hit on everyone on this team. Like, I'm talking even like the wide receivers. I think it puts a little bit of a hit on Diggs. It puts a little bit of a hit on Thielen. Like, this team is going to take a little bit of a step back, I think.
I think so too. You know, they're already dealing with the Sam Bradford injury. I think that this, you know, because they can't establish the run properly now, so now teams are going to be doubling up on their receivers. And I think this team gets hurt as a whole because of this. It's just going to suck, I think, going forward. I think this even hurts Stephon Diggs owners, you know?
Yeah. It's just, you know, we know that this combo is not going to work with Murray and with McKinnon. We know it's almost kind of similar to last year. We know it's not going to work. They almost have to make some kind of move at this point, I think.
Yeah, to save their season, they'll have to. I mean, and it's also embarrassing, too, because they just lost to the Lions yesterday 14-7. I mean, the team that beat you only scored 14 points, you know?
Marcus Mariota left the game with a hamstring injury. Now, how serious do you think that injury was? Do you think maybe they just said, you know what, this game's already out of reach. We're not gonna push you back into the game. We're gonna be smart with our franchise quarterback, unlike some other teams.
Yeah, I think
maybe that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Titans made the right call here. You know, the game was already out of hand. It got ugly quick, and you know, with Marcus Mariota getting hobbled, it doesn't sound like it's too major. The coach said it was day to day, so I tend to think that he'll play next week if I was a betting man. So, but yeah, I think that the Titans made the right call here.
Yep. I don't want to forget about these injuries that happened Thursday night. Ty Montgomery had a rib injury. We've covered it a little bit. It's not going to be as serious. He could play against Dallas next week, but Jamal Williams also hurt his knee. He'll probably miss next week. Enter in Aaron Jones. I think that Aaron Jones looked fine in his role last week. He had 13 carries, 49 yards, and a touchdown, I believe. He's not owned in very many leagues. So, I mean, this is a guy that you can go up and get onto the waiver wire. He's only owned in, I think, like less than 5% of leagues or something like that. So he's running back 79 with his trend. I think his game is trending upward.
Yeah, it looks like he's the back to own back there, aside from Ty Montgomery, and it already seems like Ty Montgomery is already getting hobbled at this point in the season. So I think if you get a guy like Aaron Jones, you know, maybe he can't go against Dallas, you know, or, you know, maybe even later in the season he gets more and more banged up and then they have to take him out. So I think that Aaron Jones is definitely a quality ad this week.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Ty Montgomery owner, I almost want him to get a couple of weeks of rest. It just seems like it's been one injury after another for this guy this year, you know?
Yeah, he's really taking a beating. As Chuck Pagano would probably say, he's beat to shit.
Let's see. We also have in that same game, Devontae Adams had a pretty ridiculous looking hit to the head neck injury.
That scared me, man.
Do you think he's going to be ready for Dallas? Or I mean, I think that you should probably, even if it's questionable, still go out and get a guy like Geronimo Allison, right? He looked pretty good.
As of right now,
I don't think he's a great talent by any means, but he's going to be good in that offense. He has Aaron Rodgers throwing to him.
Right. Yeah, I think as far as Devontae Adams goes, it seems like he's unlikely to play this week, and I think they're just going to hold him out mainly as a precaution, you know, because they want to make sure that he's fully healthy for the rest of the season. With that being said, though, I do think that Geronimo Allison could be a pretty good ad, you know, to use, but only when, you know, he's going to be relevant, because you have to understand he's still going to be competing with, you know, Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, and then he's going to see work in like 3 wide sets, but he could be effective. I mean, he did have a coming out party 2 weeks ago, so, you know, could be worth an ad.
Yeah. So another injury, Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu both left the game against Buffalo. They were saying that they're saying it wasn't serious. They get a Week 5 bye. I think that Julio Jones will definitely be back by Week 6. Mohamed Sanu could miss a game or two after he did get an MRI. He could miss a game or two with a hamstring injury. Now, who do you think?
That motherfucker, Dan Quinn, dude, Julio was telling him he was fine. He was like, I want to come back in the game. And then he's like, no, we're going to hold you out. I guarantee you if they had Julio in for the rest of the game, they would have won that fucking game. The reason that they lost is because Matt Ryan had no one to throw to.
He was throwing the ball to Justin Hardy and Nick Williams and Taylor Gabriel. Like, good luck.
Yeah. And then the coach was like, Julio said he was fine. He was like, I'm fine. He was a little sore. Fucking let your star player play. But instead they got embarrassed on their home turf.
Yeah. I mean, if Mohamed Sanu, though, if he's going to miss a couple of games, wouldn't that make a guy like Taylor Gabriel more relevant?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be in a hurry to pick him up because you're dealing with the Falcons bye week next week, so he's not going to play. I think that a lot of fantasy owners are going to realize that too. So to me, there's better options out there that can help you out right now.
Derek Carr, he left his game with back spasms. It appears like he's going to be out for 2 to 6 weeks. This is, once again, we've seen what happened last year when he was out. This is a huge blow to the Raiders' offense, and it was already an offense that was stalling before he got hurt. Like, what do you call it? Michael Crabtree's all banged up. What do you make of this Raiders' offense right now?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, it doesn't look good. Marshawn
Are you pressing the panic button?
Yeah, I am. I mean, this is a team that a lot of people predicted would, go to the AFC Championship this year, and it's just not. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, Marshawn Lynch has been ineffective thus far this year. He's definitely showing every bit of his age. You got a guy like Michael Crabtree who was already dealing with a chest injury, and Amari Cooper who's been dealing with drops like a madman and has been ineffective to this point in the season as well, and has been a major disappointment in his NFL career so far. So, yeah, I think this is huge. I think this definitely, if the Raiders...
You really think that he's been a disappointment to his career so far? I mean,
Amari,
he has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. There's not a whole lot of receivers that start out like that.
I'm just saying.
I get it. He's had 2 catches in 2 weeks, and everyone's real down on him. But to say that he's been unsuccessful in his career up to this point is kind of ridiculous. He's had 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
I don't know, man. I expected so much more of him. I'm talking strictly fantasy purposes. I get it, but as far as like fantasy teams go, like I've seen it. I've owned him.
I think people are trying to put Amari Cooper into a mold that he just doesn't fit. They want to put him in that like upper echelon type of receiver. Like they think he's going to evolve into Julio Jones just magically because players naturally just grow into Julio Jones. But like that's not the case. He's a good receiver. I don't think he's going to be like elite receiver by any means, but he's good.
Okay, and I'll agree with that. That's a fair statement.
I think people were just their expectations were just set for Murray just entirely too high to begin with.
Right, exactly, and that's what I mean by him being a disappointment. I mean like the fact that like when he was coming out of college, everybody was like you just said he was going to be the next Julio Jones, which I have always disagreed with. I mean, I'm not going to say that he can't obtain that because he's still so talented. He's burning corners at will. Like he has to fix the drops.
Paul Perkins, maybe this is for something good to happen to the Giants. I don't want to celebrate his rib injury by any means because that's shitty, but he's out with a rib. He left with a rib injury. You finally have an excuse to drop him. If you didn't have a reason to drop Paul Perkins before, now is your reason. Now is your opportunity to drop Paul Perkins and then pick up nobody. Just avoid the entire Giants backfield. I know Wayne Gallman, he had 42 yards out of 11 carries. That's still not great. Yeah, it's better than Paul Perkins. It's still not great. It's still going to be a team that is going to have trouble running the ball. There's still a lot of backs in that backfield that the ball can go to. Avoid Wayne Gallman. Because also Orleans Dark was coming back too.
Yeah, I don't even know how this is going to shake out with the New York backfield. So it's going to, I kind of want to stay away from it if I can avoid it.
Yep. Chris Carson carted off the field. Apparently he broke his ankle.
And his leg. Broke his leg.
Oh yeah, was it his leg or his ankle?
He had a high ankle sprain and a broken leg, so he's done.
There you go. How does it affect this offense though? I mean, this is already a team that they're finally getting their offense on track, moving the ball, and all of a sudden, bam, he's on the cart.
Well, I'll tell you, there's several different ways you can look at this backfield. So Pete Carroll said C.J. Prosise, he would be shocked if he didn't come back next week. So that should put J.D. McKissick or whatever his fucking name is out of your mind. Like, just don't even pick him up. He's not worth the ad. Because if Prosise plays,
I think he is. I think he is worth the ad.
You think he's worth the ad?
I think McKissick is worth the ad. Yeah.
Really?
Just because, yeah. I think that Prosise, he's still hurt. We don't know if he's going to be back next week. And they are on the bye, but after week 6, I think if you're in a situation where maybe you drafted Rob Kelly and he's been hurt and now they'll have a week 5 bye. If you have like a week 5 bye, he could be a bye week fill-in, and then you can drop him for his bye week.
Yeah, I just don't know if he'll be effective. Especially if Prosise suits up next week, then his value is all for nothing. Like
I don't think he'll be back. I really don't think Prosise will be back. It makes no sense to rush Prosise back, especially when they have a bye week. Why not let Prosise sit? Then he gets his bye week, comes back week 7 fully healthy.
Well, I mean, I know that I don't trust Pete Carroll as far as I can throw him, but at the same time, he did say that he would be shocked if Prosise wasn't back next week. So we'll see. I don't know. McKissick might be a little bit of fool's gold to me. However, with that being said, I think the back to own here is going to be Thomas Rawls. I mean, he was the one that was immediately brought up as soon as the injury to Chris Carson happened. So I think that it'll be him. I think Eddie Lacy, depending if you lost a guy like Dalvin Cook, he might be worth an ad to see, but I'm not really trusting that too much.
This is still a headache. This backfield's still a headache.
It is, yeah. It's going to be so hard to decipher. In fact, I'm pretty sure that this looks like it's going to be one that's going to be ineffective all year, and it's really not going to have like a lead back. It's just going to be a god awful committee.
Oh, there's going to be a lead back, all right, and it's still going to be C.J. Prosise more than ever now that Chris Carson's gone. Because I don't think, I mean, it's really, I guess it depends who's going to be the last man standing. All these backs have injury concerns. The last back standing is going to be like the man at the end of the year.
Yeah, God, it's horrible.
It's definitely a backfield I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah.
This is going to be a backfield where they could end up carrying you through the playoffs if like just a couple of injuries go their way. One back's going to find their way into a 3-down role, I think.
Yeah, that could happen.
Or, they could all stay healthy and just be miserable all year.
That would be miserable. I do hope that happens, though. There's a lead back.
Amir Abdullah, they're kind of downplaying this injury is not very serious, but he did leave the fourth quarter and did not return with a foot/ankle injury. That's not something I want to hear if I'm an Amir Abdullah owner,
Yeah, everything I've heard, though, today is like it was just precautionary. The Lions obviously won the game. I think that he's fine, though. But, yeah, you don't want to hear that with his concerns about that foot. I know that.
It's bullshit, though, because this is the second time that Amir Abdullah got hurt in the fourth quarter, left and did not return when he could have had 100 yards. This is the second time against the Giants and now against the Vikings. I mean, it looks like they're wanting to get him more involved, though. I like how they're using him. They even gave him a red zone carry, and he scored.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
All right, let's jump into some of the quarterbacks this week. When every time we're talking about quarterbacks in the waiver wire, we're typically talking about streaming options. Is there any quarterback that you would have your eyes on this week?
I think we were talking about it earlier. I think that the one that's on my mind is Eli Manning. I think he plays the Chargers at home. So the Giants play at home and they play the Chargers is what I meant to say there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he played pretty well last weekend. I know that Eli Manning's kind of been the last couple seasons a hard guy to trust, but the Chargers is in a scary matchup. Barrett's done for the season. They only have Casey Hayward. And I think that if he shadows Odell, I don't really think he's going to, I think Odell will still find a way to do some damage. So I think you can fire Eli Manning up this week.
Yeah, the question is, though, is Eli Manning available in your league? He is owned in 59% of Yahoo leagues, so he may or may not be available. I think, though, it is a great play if he is available. He has 5 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions the last 2 weeks with 654 yards. Even had I've seen this on Twitter. They call it the dad run for the touchdown. You ever see like your dad like run out to like the barbecue because like something's like overcooked, or maybe like the newspaper boy left past your house and didn't give you the newspaper and you just see your dad run?
Yeah.
That's what Eli Manning looked like on his touchdown run. All 5'2" of his 40-yard dash.
Yeah, he's not exactly a fast guy.
But yeah, I mean, the Chargers, they've only held the only quarterback they held to under 20 points this year has been Jay Cutler. They've played Trevor Siemian, Jay Cutler, Alex Smith, and Wentz. Jay Cutler is the only one not to get 20 fantasy points against him. So this is actually a pretty good play for Eli Manning, especially that the Chargers, they have to go on the road across the country to New York. You know how I feel about games like that. Eli Manning's a strong play. I'll throw out a name for you. Deshaun Watson. I know he plays Kansas City, but he's increased his fantasy points every week so far. He's been great against teams that have a weak secondary, but shut down against good secondaries like Jacksonville and Cincinnati. So, I mean, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that he just succeeds against secondaries that are a little bit weaker. So, I mean, I feel like you could probably pick him up because he's quarterback 6 right now in the league. You could probably pick him up, but I still kind of view him as a quarterback 2. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable starting him against Kansas City.
Yeah, that's a rough matchup for a lot of people. They have a very opportunistic defense.
Yeah. I just brought him up because I know a lot of people are probably going to be looking to pick him up. He just scored 5 fucking touchdowns, But I think buyer beware with Deshaun Watson.
I agree.
I think a streamer that could be a little bit underrated this week is Brian Hoyer. I know he didn't have exactly a very good game last week, but he does play Indianapolis. Indianapolis is a team that hasn't been stopping the quarterbacks either. Kayla, how do you feel about Hoyer going on the road against Indianapolis?
Yeah, I don't love it, but at the same time, Indianapolis doesn't have a scary defense. Their rushing defense has been surprisingly effective this season. So, I don't really know how I feel about this, but I don't really like any quarterback with his kind of a pedigree going on the road. I really don't. I'd like to avoid that, but there are also worse options out there.
Yeah. And Andy Dalton, 46% owned in Yahoo leagues. He's quarterback 23. Man, was everyone panicking about Andy Dalton? And then now the last 2 weeks, he looked just fine. 6 touchdowns to no interceptions. But, he did play the Browns. It had a lot to do with it. Next week, he stays at home against Buffalo.
Yeah, so that's going to be a test. That's going to be a test. They're for real, man. What they did to Atlanta was impressive.
But I know it's going to be a test, but the real question is, would you test him on your team next week? And the answer would be no.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to highlight him. He's playing better, but you're not playing him against Buffalo.
Yeah.
Jared Goff, he's 22% owned in Yahoo leagues. currently right now quarterback 7. He right now you got to give it up to him right now. He's on pace right now to play a 16-game pace, 4,284 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. That would be good for 331.3 fantasy points, which would have been quarterback 4 last year.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, I'm gonna ask you to just tell me to stop when you hear a scary defense, okay?
All right.
Indianapolis, Washington, San Francisco, Dallas. No, none of those teams scare you, do they?
No.
Like defensively, none of them scare you. That's who he's played so far. But here's the real test. Coming up this week, he plays Seattle. Next week, he plays Jacksonville. The following week, he plays Arizona. And then he goes on bye. Then he plays the Giants, Houston, and Minnesota. But I think that right now he's having success because he hasn't been playing good defenses. Wake me up when he lights one of these defenses in the following weeks up, okay? Then wake me up.
Wake you up when December ends.
Yeah, I do think, though, you could pick him up. He's another guy. You could pick him up. I still view him as a quarterback, too.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen.
Is there any other streaming options that you're thinking about?
If you're desperate, and I mean, you have to really be desperate to do this. I asked you about him today, but Josh McCown, would you do it? I know it sounds crazy, but he's playing the Browns, and fantasy quarterbacks have fared very well against the Browns this season. I know it's Josh McCown, so don't yell at me. Please don't yell at me on Twitter. But
well, here there is a selling point for this. You're right. There's a selling point. Here's my selling point. Can't 2017 just be Josh McCown's # revenge tour? He's just going to play against all of his old teams. He plays against Cleveland next week. Then he plays Tampa Bay week 10, Carolina week 12. Fuck, man, all he's missing is Oakland and Arizona, and the tour's complete.
But he already played Oakland in week 2, so he only misses Arizona.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. He just needs Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's playing all of his old teams. He's going to be quarterback 1 every single one of those weeks. No, I'm kidding. But this is a good match. This really is a good matchup. Here's a list of the quarterbacks that the Cleveland Browns have played this year. Week 1 they played Big Ben. Week 2 they played Joe Flacco. Week 3 they played Jacoby Brissett. And then last week they played Andy Dalton. You'd say, well, that's not really that impressive of a list. Well, they all put up season-high fantasy points when they played the Cleveland Browns. Joe Flacco's only usable week was when he played the Cleveland Browns. That was the only week where Joe Flacco even scored 20 points. Big Ben scored 22. Flacco scored 20. Jacoby Brissett scored 32. And then last week, Dalton put up 39. This is a team that isn't going to stop anybody. But I don't think that Josh McCown's a very good quarterback. Who's to say he can't at least have a solid fantasy guy? I wouldn't be streaming him by any means, but if you're in a 2-quarterback league, you could probably stream him in one of those kind of leagues.
Yeah, it could happen.
I can't believe we just talked that long about Josh McCown.
I know. Yeah, that was exhausting.
Are you? Would you play Tyrod Taylor on the road against Cincinnati? No.
No, I wouldn't either.
What about on the other side of the ball, though? Sean Keister against the Jets. Sean Keister is 8% owned. He's quarterback 25. He's been really up and down this year.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling it this week.
All right. What about Joe Flacco on the road against Oakland? No? Haven't seen anything from him yet?
Nah, I thought I gave it some thought. It is a weak defense, but at the same time, I just
it's one I'll keep my eye on, but I'm not buying into it.
Yeah, same.
Let's go over to the running back positions. I just want to throw this first name out there just in case he wasn't picked up last week. Wendell Smallwood, I still see that he's 58% owned in Yahoo leagues. He could probably be a flex dude. He's still seen less than 50% of the snaps. He got out-touched by Blunt by 3. He has 22 carries, though, in 2 weeks, had 4 receptions last week. Like I said, I think he could be a flex dude, so if he's still available in your league, go ahead and scoop him up. But he should be long. He should have been picked up last week.
Amen.
I hate to bring a name up again. Alvin Kamara, 46% owned. Is it time to own him yet? Hey, did you see how much he was used in London? No, you probably didn't see it because the game was 6:30 your time, but he had like 5 catches on the first drive.
Yeah, I know. I did. I saw the highlights from that game, and he looked impressive. Yeah, I mean, if he's not owned in your league, he needs to be owned in all leagues, definitely.
And there was a blurb coming out from Sean Payton that says he wants to only use 2 running backs in his system. It doesn't make sense to just use Ingram and then Kamara. I never got why AP was ever on that team. They should know what they should do is trade AP back to Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Minnesota even wants him. They've seen how he's been
That'd
used
be funny.
this season. That would be hilarious. I thought about that today, too. I read that article from Pro Football Talk, but I'm just like, that makes no sense to me. AP's just been ineffective. I wouldn't do it if I was Minnesota, but hey, weirder things have happened, I guess.
I think a decent ad out there, though, 23% owned, Andre Ellington. He's currently running back 27 in PPR leagues. He has 27 targets in 3 games. I think didn't he have I think he led the team in targets last game with like 14.
Yeah, it's impressive how they're using him because it seems like Arizona's just committed to the pass, and he's the only running back in that backfield with skills in the passing game. So you might as well just fire him up. You know, I'd say he's like a weekly flex option at this point.
Yeah, I'd put him in the flex. And like I said, the great thing about him, he's only owned in 23% of leagues, so he's still widely available.
Yeah, he's out there.
Well, how do you feel about Giovanni Bernard?
He has been getting limited amount of carries, but he scored for 2 weeks straight. So I don't know how I feel about this. If he's out there, I guess. But the Cincinnati backfield still hasn't worked itself out because even this week, with Joe Mixon, he got quite a bit of carries and he wasn't really able to do a whole lot with it. So I think it's the carries are still up for grabs there.
Yeah, Giovanni Bernard, he had 11 touches in 2 weeks, 2 touchdowns. It was like a 61-yard screenplay that he scored off of. It's not like it was like a red zone look or something, I think though his usage is going to be inconsistent from week to week. Joe Mixon's still got a shit ton of carries these past 2 weeks. I don't see that changing a whole lot. But I think Gio's still a better bench spot than a guy like Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a guy that you're looking to pick up, Kamo?
Just in general, or just running back?
At running back.
You know what, man? I know I lost Dalvin Cook this week, but I'm really not excited about any of these guys, man. I really just I'm gonna claim somebody, but it's like, fuck, you have your pick of like, Eddie Lacy or fucking Latavius Murray, and I just really don't feel confident in those guys. But at the same time, opportunity is everything.
If you don't like those guys, you can go for a little bit of a deeper option. I know he plays for the shit Jets, but Elijah McGuire through the first quarter of the season, running back 39, he had 93 yards off 10 carries. He had a touchdown. He even caught a couple passes,
Yeah, he's actually the one guy that scares me because I own Bilal Powell on that same team, and I'm like, shit, like, I might as well just pick up McGuire, and then I have them both, so whatever way it goes.
I want the entire Jets backfield.
I own it. I own the worst backfield in the NFL.
Oh, no, it's not the worst backfield in the NFL. That's the Giants. It's still New York.
Right. But... You're right.
If you're a Jaquiz Rogers owner, are you still holding on to Jaquiz now that Doug Martin is coming back, or are you wanting to see what kind of condition that Doug Martin is in before you drop a guy like Jaquiz Rogers?
I want to keep him for another week because it sounds like the Bucks play on Thursday, and it doesn't sound like his status is completely set in stone yet. It seems to be a long shot that Doug Martin goes back on Thursday and just dominates touches. I think that they're going to kind of ease him into it. They'll use him. They'll do like a committee for the first week, and then I think that Doug Martin will be back to full speed.
Yeah, and then I brought him up because Jaquez Rogers is only owned in 57% of leagues. I do see that percentage going down because of Doug Martin coming back up. So he might end up becoming more available in some of these leagues in the following days. Jamal Charles, 45% owned. He got dominated touch-wise by C.J. Anderson. If you need to make a bench spot open, feel free to let Jamal go. Deontay Foreman, still out there, 28% owned. He just keeps getting carries. Obviously, I know there was a blowout style, and that's why he's going to get those kind of carries. But I think he's definitely a more interesting bench stash.
I think he's the best one out there because he's one of the only ones that I feel very confident about could get a 3-down workhorse role if Lamar Miller were to go down.
That's the kind of when you're looking at handcuffs, you got to think if the main guy goes down, where are the touches going to go? Are they going to give it to one guy? Are they going to give it to two guys? Are they going to go to some kind of committee? The guy, if you know that he's going to be like the dude, that makes him more valuable,
Exactly.
As a handcuff, at least. I know you said you weren't too high on J.D. McKissick. I guess it really depends on. I think it's more of a speculative ad. You don't need to really rush out to go get him, but I think go get it's like I said, a speculative ad. You add him, find out what the health is on C.J. Prosise, and if C.J. Prosise is going to play, then you just drop him. No big deal. It's not like you're going to waste a waiver wire. You're not going to waste a priority on him. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. I wouldn't either. Yeah, I wait till first come first serve for this guy. And, but the thing is, to me, he just fills the same role as C.J. Prosise. And when I add people, I tend to like to think that I'm not just going to use them for a week. I feel like if your team or if your league limits ads that you can have in a week, I just really feel like there's just better things you could use that on in your league.
Well, he's a typical guy where you can pick and flick. You pick him up, put him in your lineup, shoo him away. I don't know if you really feel comfortable with him in the lineup either, though, because it is a limited role in that offense.
That's my point. Yeah.
Alex Collins, he's still out there in 90% of leagues. Past 2 weeks, he has 18 carries for 164 yards. So, I mean, it's a really bad situation that he's in too, though. It's a three committee set, something to avoid. I do fully though endorse picking up Jerick McKinnon. I'm not sure how serious his injury was, but I do think he is probably worth the ad over there in Minnesota. He's only 3% owned in Yahoo leagues. I think he'll end up being a better ad than Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
For going real deep here, like we said, Wayne Gallman's a guy that you want to avoid, but instead just pick up Aaron Jones.
Yeah, definitely.
If you are looking for, if you really absolutely need a Seattle running back, I know we were on the Lacey train earlier this season, but I think that Carroll hinted towards Rawls being the starter, like being the lead back. Right, he did hint it towards that. That was what I was referring to. It seems like that's the way he wants to go with it, but it sounds like right now it's so close. Eddie Lacy led the team in rushing last night. He had 11 carries for 50-something yards last night. Nearly all of that came after Chris Carson went down. I don't even know if Rawls was really even I think he was inactive that game too. Yeah, Rawls wasn't active. So, let's go over to wide receiver. I think the best receivers that's going to be available, and I wouldn't say he's available in most leagues though. Sterling Shepard's still available in 45% of Yahoo leagues. He has 5 or more catches in 3 of the 4 games that he's played in, but his target share has been up and down. Still, though, resulting in wide receiver 16 numbers for the first quarter of the season.
Yeah.
Is there a receiver out there that you have your eyes on?
Yeah, I think if I'm going to make a priority add on somebody, I think it's Jerron Brown. He's been pretty effective, and it seemed like when John Brown came back this week, he wasn't really cutting into Jerron Brown's work. He was cutting more so into J.J. Nelson's work. So I think that Jerron Brown's role is pretty safe in this offense, and he's had like a good amount of he's had a lot of targets in each game. I think he's had 10 or more in each game.
Yeah, Jerron Brown, not John Brown, 29 targets over 3 weeks. He was always getting the targets, but it was J.J. Nelson that was getting the touchdowns. And this is why we always say, look for the targets. Don't buy into the touchdowns and chasing points. Look for the targets. It was Jerron Brown who you should have been on the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that he's definitely worth an ad.
Yeah, he's only owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues. He's wide receiver 38 overall. Yeah, definitely a good ad. Alan Hearns is still available in 49% of leagues. I'm just going to touch on some names that I know we said before, but they're still fucking there. Alan Hearns, like I said, 49% owned. He's wide receiver 30. He's going to be the king of the garbage time this year. Devin Funchess is available in 75% of leagues. He's wide receiver 20 so far through the first quarter of the season. 19 targets through 2 games, resulting in 11 catches for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think that, he's outproducing Kelvin Benjamin. Why not? The ball has to go somewhere in that offense. I know the offense doesn't look great, but, maybe they build on something from the game that they just played against New England.
Yeah, maybe so.
And a couple more receivers. Paul Richardson, I think you can probably drop him. He only had 3 targets last night. So Damian Amendola, he's just a bye week fill-in type of dude. You know how I feel. I feel like you can get bye week fill-ins any week, but this is the week where bye weeks are starting. I know Washington, Denver, Atlanta, and New Orleans all on byes, so that might not be a bad little bye week fill-in. How do you feel about Robbie Anderson?
Yeah, he's one of the ones with the jury for me is still out. He looks good. He can tell me that he's a good football player, but at the same time, he plays in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. So I'm looking elsewhere for players, but if I'm absolutely desperate, I think I could probably take a flyer on him.
Yeah, he's 20% owned in Yahoo leagues, currently wide receiver 42. The thing is, though, he seems like a guy that's only going to get 4 to 6 targets a week, and he has a limited route tree. He's going, what he's going to do. He's going to run the 9, or he's going to run a post, and that's pretty much what he has. I'm not buying into him, especially with the offense he plays in. Who I'd rather have is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's only 2% owned in Yahoo leagues. I think Juju Smith-Schuster has a high upside stash. He's kind of like a high upside stash, but kind of like the end of the bench type of stash player. But he could evolve into something more. He's already taken over the slot role for the Pittsburgh offense. We know about Martavius Bryant's been struggling. Who knows what more he can evolve into? They drafted him relatively high.
Yeah, who do you think this cuts into more? Do you think it cuts? I mean, obviously it doesn't cut into Antonio Brown, but does this cut into Martavius Bryant and his value? I
mean, we really haven't seen it, but we've seen Big Ben miss him on a couple of throws too. I just think that this is going to be a good enough offense where they'll be able to support 3 receivers. I think. Okay. I'm really not too worried about Bryant just because I've seen him get open and Big Ben's missed him a few times. That's what it's come down to. Big Ben's missed him a few times.
Yeah.
Really, Big Ben's probably he's been the weak link on that offense.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a really obscure name to even bring up, but We brought him up last year. Adam Humphries. He is owned in 0% of Yahoo leagues. Very obscure name, I know, but 17 targets over the past 2 weeks, 12 catches for 138 scoreless yards. Just a bye week fill-in. That's all he is. Not a guy I would really trust at all, but I mean, I'm saying if you're in like a 16, like a deep league, a 16-team league or something like that, might be someone you could look for. How do you feel about some of these guys? This is a guy coming off an injury, Will Fuller. He had 6 targets and he scored 2 touchdowns. That kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, it did for me too. He's been kind of unacclimated to that offense, this season, especially with a new quarterback, and they developed instant chemistry, man. Yeah,
I mean, he didn't really have a whole lot of targets. They're still second on the team behind DeAndre Hopkins, who's just getting like a buttload. But it kind of surprised me to see like the chemistry that he already had, playing with that rookie quarterback. Another guy that's out there, I know you picked him up last week, Camille, Josh Doxson, 11% owned now, up 10% from last week now. I haven't really watched any of the Monday night games, so I really don't know how he's doing. Have you been watching him at all? Have you been seeing him out in the field at all?
Yeah, it seems like he's not doing a whole lot. I think he's got like 1 catch for 17 yards. Or no, yeah, he's got 1 reception for 7 yards thus far.
Yeah.
I think they're at the end of the third quarter, so.
Yeah, okay. Maybe he's not worth anything then, but I just knew that Terrell Pryor has been struggling, but I know he scored like a 44-yard touchdown tonight. So maybe they're starting to right the ship over there a little bit. Taylor Gabriel, he's going on bye next week. You got to worry about him. Let's go over to the tight end position, unless you have another receiver that you want to mention.
No, I'm good.
All right. I think probably one of the better ads that you could probably do this week at tight end, Cameron Brate. He's 50% owned in Yahoo leagues. He's currently tight end 11 right now. The reason why he's a good ad for me is next week he plays New England. He has 10 targets to 2 weeks, back-to-back weeks to touchdown. And we know that New England's been giving up a lot of passing yards. So
yeah,
I like it.
I like it too. He's not sexy by any means, but he gets the job done.
Yeah. Is there a tight end that you're looking to stream next week? Is there a guy that's out there that you're looking for?
I haven't really looked at tight ends too much, but I will say this is the last call on Charles Clay. I think that this weekend kind of cemented it. If he's still available in your league, I don't know if he will be or not. I mean, he's like 70% owned last time I checked, but I think he needs to be added in all leagues. I think that he has a good chance to end the year as a tight end 1. Yeah,
especially now that Jordan Matthews is going to miss like 3 to 4 weeks with I think he's a broken thumb. It just further cements Charles Clay as the number 1 target in Buffalo for whatever the fuck that's worth,
Yeah, exactly.
Evan Ingram, he's tight end 6 so far this year. He plays the Chargers next week. So I think that's definitely a good streaming option. Benjamin Watson, he's tight end 9. He's coming off a quiet game, 5 for 43, but he plays Oakland next week. And here's what Oakland has been doing to the tight end position. It's not good. It is #bad. Delaney Walker went 7 for 76. Week 2, we obviously know the Jets didn't use a tight end week 2. Washington, this is Vernon. I'm not sure if it was Vernon Davis or if it was Jordan Reed, but 5 for 58 and a touchdown. And then last week, Denver doesn't even use their tight ends, and they went 4 for 75 and a touchdown. So I think Benjamin Watson's in a good spot next week. He's probably my early stream of the week for tight ends.
Oh, AJ Derby?
Benjamin Watson.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you went on that tangent about Denver, and I was like, what? Are we talking about the same team anymore? No, yeah, I think Benjamin Watson's usable in all leagues. He's old as fuck, man. I just really think that there's better options out there. I
don't think there really is better options out there this week. He plays Oakland. Oakland's been bad against tight ends.
Oakland has been pretty horrible against tight ends.
That's what I was saying. Against all the tight ends, they're giving all the points they're giving out. It's like man, I gotta get Benjamin Watson in my lineup if I needed a tight end.
Right.
ASJ. I'm just an update. You could probably start him next week. He plays Cleveland. Cleveland's been another team that's been really awful against the tight end position again this year. So, I mean, that could be a start. He has 10 targets, 9 catches through 2 weeks for 76 yards. I'm smelling ASJ's first touchdown next week. I'm calling it right now.
I think he's definitely streamable. I think that he's a popular sleeper. I think that you can use him though.
Tyler Croft, he's going on bye. I'm just saying he's an imposter. All right, he's not going on bye. I'm sorry. But Tyler Croft is an imposter. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He's tight end 14 right now. Not buying into him having a good game like that again, especially when next week he's playing Buffalo. Just don't pick that guy up.
Yeah.
Same thing as I think you can make some room for a higher upside player than Zach Miller as well. Have you thought about any defenses for next week, K-Mill?
I haven't actually given it much thought, but I'm going to read a couple off that are probably going to be popular ads. I think that Buffalo defense, after what they did, they're going to be pretty popular. They're playing Cincinnati. So I don't know how much. I think that game's going to kind of be a slugfest, so I think game script could really help them out in that game. And they've also been impressive thus far. Maybe a team like Philadelphia, if they're available. They play Arizona.
They play Arizona. That's not terrible. I think I do like. I'm still going to roll with Detroit next week. They play Carolina. They're at home. I'm still going to roll with Detroit. Cam Newton, I know that his offense looked better against the Patriots, but the Patriots' defense looks bad, and Detroit's defense looks good. So I'm going to just keep rolling with that until that changes.
Or another one, Baltimore plays the Derek Carrless Raiders. That's pretty good. I mean, I know Baltimore. Yeah, but
they're probably owned though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, they're getting mass dropped. It looks like from the Yahoo ownership.
Well, I'm saying I think they're still over 50% though.
Yeah, that's true. They are.
Well, I mean, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 61. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like, like you said, Buffalo. I think that's not a bad matchup against Cincinnati next week. So that's a pretty good one. Cincinnati has a terrible offensive line, and Buffalo has like 11, 12 sacks already through 4 games. So I think Andy Dalton's going to have a tough time against Buffalo. That's probably one of my streams of the week right there for defense. But like I said, I'm still rolling with Detroit in my league, though.
Agreed.
All right. Are there any last words of wisdom? Anything else that you want to add to the show before we end it, K-Mill?
Fuck my life, man. How do you lose fucking DJ and Dalvin Cook in the same season? It just sucks, man. I'm so down in the dumps about it.
You know what you need, man? You need like a happy stripper party in your bedroom.
I know, dude. I really do, man. You know what? I need you guys to let me win the next couple of weeks, and then maybe it'll be fair for the amount of injuries that have happened. Like I've been telling everybody this is the worst year I've ever had in fantasy, and it's like hands down. I've never had a year where I've lost top 2 players like that. Like just it's like gut punches. Like fuck, man. It just sucks.
Yeah. I don't know why, but it seems like the last 2-3 years. I don't know it. I'm not even gonna say anything. Just forget it, Fifth Downers. This is the end of the show. If you enjoyed our show, you can leave us a review on iTunes. We're also available on Spreaker and Stitcher. That's pretty much all we got for today's show. Come check us out. In the middle of the week, we'll have our matchup show for Week 5, and it should be a good one. Just keep fighting the good fight, Fifth Downers, and have a good night.